Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Red Sea podcast. A rare early afternoon edition for the Red Sea podcast due to circumstances, of course, and due to you all voting for the episode to be today and not last night, which in turn, honestly, may have been the better scenario given the situation and that we all needed breather to process everything. But yeah, here I am, here we are as always to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of every situation. As always, if you're new, do check out everything in the description. Do check out the QR code here that will lead you straight to the link tree of the show. Any interaction is welcome. Check out the backlog and subscribe if you like what you see. There's a lot there and a lot more coming for sure as we're getting back into a regular programming after a tough few months. You should be expecting at minimum 2 pieces of content here a day and normal coverage on the socials as there has been, of course, along with highlights and stuff. And of course, as always, I just want to say that I appreciate all your support. Because in retrospect, what we've done in a year and a half is mind blowing. And as I've said many times, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart, we're only just getting started, right? So, honestly, in aims of a dream not only coming true, but surpassing my expectations already, the least I can say is thank you. And as always, I promise I will keep on delivering, is that the best has yet to come, right? But sadly, we we can't keep such a positive attitude this episode. I mean, I'll try because you all know that I try my hardest, at least most times, to keep as optimistic as possible, keep as calm as possible, see the bigger picture. But last night was a dagger, right? Last night was unexpected because honestly, I along with many others thought that that was the performance of the season for us, and in a game that could have been season making or breaking, we showed up. We showed up like we should have showed up. We showed up with a plan. We showed up organized. We showed up disciplined, and we showed up to win. Right? We showed up to win, and we should have won. But as always with the Champions League, it's all in the details. And at the death, uh, the unwritten rule of football took part, and given the chances we wasted, we conceded an equalizer in the 93rd, 94th minute. I don't remember. I'll check in a bit. And suddenly, right where qualification seemed almost certain, and we would have needed 4 more points from 4 games, or 5 more points from 4 games. We now need to win out. We need at least 7 or 8 more points. The projected points for us are now 6 to 8, and the projected points for qualification are 8 to 10. I don't believe in data and statistics that much, if you want me to be completely honest. I do believe that, again, saying it in a colder mind, because yesterday I thought the world was absolutely lost, as did many, right? But taking a breather, taking a night to process it, even though I doubt many of us actually got any proper sleeping, taking a night to process it, qualification is possible, but we can't keep doing this. We can't keep wasting our chances. We can't keep fumbling in the details. We need to secure games. We need to secure games because I think that I and many others said that yesterday, that 1-0 isn't enough in Champions League. 1-0 doesn't secure you a win. We were up from the 17th minute and we missed like 17 more chances. We lost the game in the details. That's the thing. That's the main thing. And the game became a big what if. The game became a big what if because it's incredibly illogical that we lost this game. Not gonna stand here and blame it all on luck, because it's not all on luck. I'm not gonna stand here and blame a specific player, because it's not on a specific player, it's on most. And I'm not gonna stand here and say that I can't that I can explain it, because I can't. I don't think anyone can properly explain how the flying hell we didn't win this game. It's a lot of things together. It's a lot of problems combined. Whether you want to put it on bad planning within the game, whether you want to put it on bad decisions from players, whether you want to put it on exhaustion, luck, the absence from a competition that has changed completely, right? The competition. Oh no. I'm back. Technical difficulties happen, but I'm back. As I was saying, our absence from a competition that has changed fully within the time that has passed, the 5 years that seem like a lifetime now, right? The 5 years that seem like ages ago. And we stand here with games that we should have realistically won. We stand here not even a full day after a game that has kept us mind blown, and we stand here just looking forward to uncertainty, right? We stand here looking forward to a qualification that should be closer. And again, if you put it on any of the forementioned reasons, you'd be right. If you put it on any possible explanation, you'd be right. But it's all of them combined. And again, it's in the details. Because again, for a full 90 minutes, up until the extra time got even talked about, we thought at minimum that we'd get the damn result. Sure, we didn't actually end up putting it all together, but we thought we'd get the damn result. At least I did. But chances, mistakes, and everything like that proved to be detrimental. But again, keeping in mind how well we played, I can't physically sit here and criticize players. I can't physically sit here and say that no, he's at fault. No, he's at fault, or no, it's him, or him and that decision, and this and that. Because in a general factor, we played incredible football. It was the most Olympiacos football we've seen from Olympiacos in Europe this season. But again, we got eaten up in our own details, by our own mistakes, in our own mind. Because don't forget that we're talking about a PSV that put 6 past Napoli. We're talking about a Pepe that had a goal and an assist in 7 minutes against Napoli. And yesterday, PSV's XG was less than 1. Less than 1. And that's insane. Let me actually try and find the expected goals, if I can actually pull it up. Give me one singular second. But if you think about it, that's insane. And we're not talking about a Napoli that's the Napoli that finished 10th after they won the league. We're talking about defending champions that are well on their way to win it again. We're talking about defending champions that are a very respectable team in the Champions League, that are in the top 24, under a manager that's incredible, to say the least of the least, right? And we kept them locked down. We kept them locked down. Zolakis almost prevented. It was goals prevented. It was 0.71. 0.71. That's a lot. That just says a lot. Minus 0.71. It's even that statistic alone. To concede a goal that shouldn't have been scored statistically. It's insane. It's mind-blowing. Like, even if you take it from a broader perspective, it's mind-blowing. But again, the world isn't just over, right? There it is. That's what I've been trying to find. Expected goals for PSV, 0.35. Like, that goal was nearly impossible. Nearly impossible. And we stand here just mind blown. I don't know if criticism is something needed. Of course, criticism is needed, but to the levels that it's been presented, the war is not over. Qualification is not over. Surely the mentality of this team is down in the dumps, right? Because we've gone 0 from 4. We've conceded the goals we've conceded. We've scored 2. We've scored 2 goals in Champions League. But again, we're gonna face an Ajax that's... Is Ajax still last? I'm pretty sure Ajax is still last. Yes, Ajax is last with a minus 10 goal difference. We're facing Kairat away, which Kairat away is going to be a tough game for different reasons. Because it's Bodo all over again, right? It's Bodo all over again. We're going to play in one of the weirdest climates we have ever played against a team that's 10 levels below us, right? And then we're facing a Leverkusen that's 29th, basically with the same problem as us, at home. If you look at the teams that we have and that we have to beat, logic says that we should beat them. And again, winning out on those 3 games, even if we lose to Madrid, means that we more than likely do make it to the top 24. But you track back to what's been happening up until now as a counter argument. Because Pathos was a team that we should have beaten, especially in the circumstances of them being a man down from the God knows which minute, I don't even remember. PSV wasn't out and out the team that we should have beaten, but PSV is a team that we could have beaten, as we saw. We could have been in the top 25 right now. And qualification would have been much, much easier talk. But we're here. These are the circumstances of everything happening. And we need to move forward with them. And we need to use everything that we have at our disposal, everything that we've learned, all the disbelief and pain that the team has, to move forward and to beat the fuck out of the teams that are left. Because this Olympiacos, quality-wise alone, deserves to make top 24. I don't know what's going so indescribably wrong with the planning of this team. But quality-wise alone, we deserve to make top 24. I don't know what's happening. Why is my phone turning off? Give me a quick second to actually go on and fix that to see what's wrong. Give me one singular second. I'll be right back. Okay, everything should be fine now. I'm hoping that that won't happen again, but I'm keeping an eye out either way. Now, moving on to more specifics about the game. Talked about this man, our goal scorer, and I think someone who undoubtedly, at least, had the game, one of the games of his Olympiacos career. He seemed unstoppable up until a point. He seemed unbelievably in control of his game. He seemed calm, he seemed collected, and he seemed full of confidence. He scored one of the best goals that I personally have seen of him, not only in Olympiacos but in general. And along with Danny down the other wing, they both tracked back and won challenges as well. It was one of the best winger duo performances we've seen in a while, especially in Europe. And then one singular decision to not pass and 2 missed chances, one very unlucky, one perhaps just one that shouldn't have been missed in any circumstance. Of course, I'm talking about the dink of the crossbar and Nascimento's pass that led to a low-driven shot that just skimmed the post, proving to be severely detrimental. There's no real blame on Gelson. Got man of the match as well. But those three instances alone prove that you have to be damn near perfect at this level. And that sometimes, to use what Musa said, sometimes having a great game isn't enough. Having a great game isn't enough. And while Gelson shouldn't be taking full blame for this loss, his decisions prove to be way more detrimental than they should have, which is on one hand unfair, on the other hand, that's what happens at this level. But his performance still shouldn't be overlooked, right? He had a wonderful game, he scored a wonderful goal. But still, those are just the details that need to be fixed. They need to be fixed. And talking about details that need to be fixed, Kostas Zolakis. Zolakis hasn't started this season amazingly. He is under a lot of scrutiny. He has the spotlight of the wonder kid on him, which is a brutal spotlight, especially when you play in a country like Greece and when you represent a club like Olympiacos. But the criticism he's faced is so unfair. It's so unfair. And it's easy to criticize the goalkeeper, right? It always is. But people forget very easily. Zolakis needs to work on some stuff. And I know that's easy to say sitting on a chair and reporting on the team, right? But he needs to work on some stuff. Nerves and his exits are the main thing. Because as I said yesterday, he was getting job done up until the goal, but there were just some narrow misses that would have been more costly than ever. But blaming him, not just solely for the goal, but the loss, is insane. Because it's the Greek mentality again, that there always has to be a scapegoat, right? And that scapegoat shouldn't be Zolakis. There should never be a singular scapegoat, in my opinion, either way, because it's a team game, and losses of points, draws, and results that shouldn't happen fall on everybody, almost everybody, because there is always exceptions on the other end as well. But putting everything on Zolakis is just plain stupid. I'm sorry, it's stupid. Because okay, yeah, it was a bad moment. He has fought for the goal. But why don't we look at Rodney, for example? Why don't we look at Rodney, who has kept absolutely everyone on side in the past 4 games, and that's almost been the cause of a lot more goals than have come. Why don't we look at his coverage work? Why don't we look at everyone else that just let the ball fly by? Why just look at Zolakis? And again, I'm not saying that he's free of criticism. He's not. But putting everything on Kostas Zolakis is utterly fucking stupid. That's the case, sadly. And even I, at the start, even I said that, yeah, that's on Zolakis. It's not, though. And it's not. I saw the argument that it's an easy shot. It's not an easy shot. It's very rarely an easy shot, because if it was an easy shot, the defense would have stopped it. And if it was an easy shot, we wouldn't have to analyze in that much detail why that fucking goal came, right? And sure, it's exhaustion. Sure, it's a bad moment, but it's not all on Zolakis. Doesn't change that he needs to work on some stuff as well and take a good breather because he's taking on too much. This one, he's a weird kid. Again, a shame. And I feel like I'm saying this for everybody, but it's a shame because Roddy had a wonderful game, but he's the only one that's keeping Pepe throbbing offside for him to go on and score that goal. Ever since he's come back from a lengthy and hard injury, he needs time. He needs time. And we are seeing the quality of Rodney, right? We are. We really are seeing the quality of Rodney. But he has those small mistakes in there that they've been costly up to now. In one way or another, they've been very costly up to now. And a lot of the goal, again, not all of the goal is on him because it can be just on one player, but a lot of the goal is on him. And again, it's a shame because he had a good game. I said there is exceptions, right? And I said that not everyone is to blame always, even if it is a majority. If there is one player that has nothing to do with the result yesterday, it's Lorenzo Pirola. I've said this ever since the start, that Pirola is one of the brightest talents we've seen defensively ever since last season. And he just keeps on proving that. On course for Italy's senior squad now, and for him to be a mainstay there. And an irreplaceable starter for Olympiacos. Pirola has saved us many a time, and God knows what could have happened yesterday if it wasn't for him. Because especially in games where Retsos is more quiet and doesn't have that much action, Pirola is always there. And we're talking about a man that hasn't just covered the mistakes of his partner, but covers the fullbacks as well. We're talking about a man that's played left back. He's one of the best talents we've seen at centre back. And if he continues playing like this, we're going to have a hard time keeping him, which is scary again. But we'll have a hard time keeping this man. But hopefully he still continues playing like this and being our savior in the back. I saw someone saying, yeah, it comes with Italian defenders, but I feel like he's one of the main definitions of modern football of an Italian. I don't know why this keeps happening. I'm sorry. As I was saying, I feel like he's one of the main definitions of an Italian centre back in modern football. I mentioned this a bit earlier, and I really didn't want to go on with it because I don't really believe that that's a mainstay problem. But you are unlucky after a point, right? Yeah, we should have converted those chances. But after a point, you just are unlucky. There's no way. There's nothing else to play there. Throughout the entirety of this UCL campaign, luck has played a part, right? I know it's not a priority, and I'm not putting it as a priority, but luck has played a part. And we can't excuse that. We can't overlook that, not excuse that. We can't use that as an excuse, but on the other hand, again, you can't overlook that. From crossbars to hitting the post to unbelievable saves to everything just over in the details that just demolishes performances that should have gotten us more. Again, I'm not talking about Paphos, for example. I'm mostly talking about Arsenal and yesterday. Luck has played a part. It's not a priority role in where we find ourselves, but luck has played a part. What is a priority role, though, is our effectiveness issue. I said it earlier, I find it as an unwritten rule of football that we stand in a place where we have too many missed chances. We stand in a place where we have way too many problems in finishing our stuff. And we stand in a place where we can't be confident in closing out games early. And when that happens, you'll eventually concede. It happened with Arsenal. We were in the game, even though we were behind, and we failed to score chances that could have or should have been scored. And then the game gets killed for 2-0. Happened yesterday. We were up and we had many chances, as mentioned, to score. And we didn't. And we conceded the death. It's happened many times this season. And it's a problem. It's the main problem for me that needs to be fixed. Direct attacks and effectiveness. Moving into a positive, shockingly, and that's Mouzakiris. Having to start yesterday. Shouldn't be like that, but he had to start yesterday, given Santi's absence. But I think he took his chance. He knew what this chance meant, and he did everything to prove that he should be starting day in, day out. Not that we didn't know that, but for some reason he hasn't. And he proved once again that he is a main anchor and a main pillar of the midfield, especially box to box, and one of the main players that can be that mainstay way to move the ball from the defense to the attack. And once again, he just simply proved that he should be in the starting 11 almost every game. I don't think there is much more to say. For me, one of the main problems didn't even play yesterday. And there have been a lot of questions about this man. There have been a lot of questions about his price tag. And there have been a lot of questions about if he's worth it or not. And for me, that divides into two main categories, right? It's a mix of has he gotten a chance to prove himself, and it's a mix of has he taken the chance to prove himself. This and this for me go together because we've seen a lack of involvement from most of the new boys this season, which is probably my only complaint from Mendy this season. But this man, I think it's a bit worrying that he didn't come on in a game where we needed fresh legs down the wing and where both Gelson and Danny were dead. They were dead in the water. They could barely run. And we saw that especially with Gelson. A Gelson that's just come back from injury, right? And Danny got substituted in the 84th for Costinha. Where was this man? And why couldn't he have been brought on for Gelson? And perhaps if this man was brought on for Gelson, that specific counter-attack maybe would have gone as it should have. And again, I'm not blaming Gelson for not passing that damn ball specifically because he was dead tired, right? And your mind just blares when you're exhausted. I just wish that we knew if this was an issue on Strefetsa's side, on Mendy's side, or both. Because I don't know about all of you, but I trust Mendy in not wanting to sub someone on. And especially given that we paid 8 million for Strefetsa, maybe it's time for some questions to start being asked. Maybe. But to flip it a bit on the other side and play devil's advocate for a second, at least. Scipione, Cabella, not Manza. Manza has started to play. But my main thing is Scipione, mostly. I don't know why we don't see them that much. Especially Scipione, given that Scipione, every time he comes on, he plays incredibly. He controls, he bosses the midfield. I don't know why we don't see them that much. For Scipione, it's a general thing. I've said that Cabella, for me, should be playing a lot of league games aside from the derby, even that he's not in the leagues in Europe and should be switching minutes with Yusuf Yazici. And Strefetsa, again, questions on both. And Manza, this stuff happened. We talked about Manza last show. And yeah, it's been a bit of a thing that I've noticed and that a lot of people have noticed. And it's this and the fact that subs are very late sometimes. If I had to have any two quote-unquote complaints, because of course, Mendy always knows that, it's a mix of him not really focused on his bench, and especially the new guys getting minimal time, especially in games where they could be even starting, right? Not necessarily like yesterday. I'm talking about league and stuff as well. Questions, honestly, because that's the main thing that yesterday has managed to create. That's questions. Now, a more general factor with stuff that we didn't really get to touch on, and some specific personal performances. Good. My phone just decided to be buggy today. I really apologize. I hope it's not getting too annoying, and I'm about to wrap up either way, slowly but surely. Zolakis we talked about, Rodi we talked about. Rechos had a good game, but he had more of a quiet game, being covered off by the amazing performances of Lorenzo Pirola. Ortega had more of a mediocre game. Sadly, he kind of got caught out a bit more than we needed of him. He got caught out both on the overlaps. He got caught out tracking back. Didn't get dribbled past that much, but he looked a bit out of place, which certainly played a part, but not that much. Dani Garcia actually had an incredible game, in my opinion, up until he got hurt and had to be subbed off, sadly. I don't know if it's anything serious. I hope it's not. I really hope it's not. Musa we talked about. Gelson we talked about. Chiki, of course, picking up an assist and getting subbed off in the 74th, but for the 74 minutes that he did play, I thought he was insane. I thought he was incredible, as he always is when he plays either the 10 or the 8 role. And then Danny, we talked about another thing that I want to shout out in regards to Podence is that he had perhaps one of the best defensive performances of his time at Olympiacos throughout the entire of his stints. Like Saint Podence track back, make tackles, win the ball, and a run back up was unbelievable. And if the quality of Podence just adds this to the game, I can't wait about what we'll see. Ayub sadly had more of a quiet game as well. Nascimento I actually liked a lot for the minimal time that he got. Some people said that he shouldn't be the first sub in a Champions League game, but I felt like he kept up just fine. Mehdi again, not getting that big overall and that much of a time, but a bit more quiet again. Lolo got subbed on 7 minutes before the death, and I just feel like he should have been subbed on earlier for Dani Garcia and not having Diogo Nascimento come on. And or maybe even he should have started. That's a shout for yesterday. Maybe that's my only real change that I would make that 11. And maybe starting Costinha as well and not Rodi. But yeah, in general, it's the main thing that we talked about, that criticism doesn't really fit aside from general details, right? And we have to move. We sadly have to move. The next game couldn't get any easier because it's Madrid at home. Christ, we saw Madrid lose to Liverpool yesterday, of course, but that doesn't really matter because it is Real Madrid. I don't know how we'll approach this game. We need to approach it without fear. We need to fight. And we need to show up as Olympiacos. That's my main thing. My final message as I'm closing up is that we really shouldn't think that qualification is out, but we really need to work on details to get that qualification. We can beat Ajax, we can beat Leverkusen, and we can beat Kairat. And if we do that, we're through. We just shouldn't be here. We should be way more comfortable. Stand behind this team. Let's show up in the league. Let's show up as we should. Let's get momentum. And let's face the Queen of Europe as Olympiacos only knows. And at last shout out, of course, to the fans yesterday. Because from the tifo to everything, the fans all showed why they're the shield of this team. And that's why we should stick behind this team. Because we are a major factor of its success. They deserve it, honestly. Thank you all so much for all your support. Basketball next, Partizan next. I'll see you after that. And I promise I'll fix whatever kept happening today for the seconds of cutouts. Thank you.